that an unelected billionaire has all your private information is a problem.
I wonder who he's talking about.
We have got to tell Elon Musk, nobody elected your ass. Nobody told you can get all of our private information.
Oh, Elon Musk. I partially agree with them. Elon wasn't elected to anything, but contrary to the way numerous members of Congress were acting during this rally, this is definitely not the first time unelected people have had access to the personal and private information of U.S. citizens. I am Dr. John Padfield, an engineer turned state representative turned business professor, and this is Business Reform, where we discuss issues at the intersection of business, technology, and society. In this video, we are going to examine a couple of other unelected people and groups who have access to our personal data. Let's start with the 5,285 unelected employees of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms who have access to around 20 million ATF Form 4473s that are filed every year by people exercising their Second Amendment rights. I didn't vote for anyone at the ATF, but the data they collect on American citizens isn't really all that personal. Just things like your name, address, place of birth, height, weight, gender, date of birth, social security number, ethnicity, and race. Oh, and whether you are under indictment or have ever been convicted, whether you use controlled substances, have you ever been in a mental institution, have you ever been dishonorably discharged from the military, have you ever had a restraining order issued against you, and whether you're a U.S. citizen. It seems odd that it is okay to ask someone if they are a citizen before they buy a firearm, but not okay to ask that same question during the U.S. Census. And speaking of the U.S. Census, I also don't recall ever voting for any of the 12,000 full-time employees that work for the Census Bureau, or for any of the 288,000 temporary workers who are hired by the Census Bureau every 10 years. But they don't ask for much personal information either, just the names of everyone living with you. And then for every person living with you, they ask 8 pages of questions, so a family of 4 would be filling out 32 pages of questions. And what type of questions do they ask? Just basic stuff like your phone number, sex, date of birth, ethnicity, race, marital status, education level, and the languages you speak. Oh, and whether you have any mental or physical disabilities, whether you're a veteran, what your employment status is, how long your commute to work takes, the number of vehicles you own, your employer and occupation, and how much you earn. And how many bedrooms your home has, how much your utility bills are, etc. And this is just a partial list of questions from those 8 pages. But thankfully, even though thousands of unelected people have access to this data, Census Bureau data is sacred, and it has never been used against Americans. Well, except for those 120,000 Americans of Japanese ancestry who the U.S. Census Bureau shared their personal data with the U.S. military so they could be rounded up and forcibly relocated to internment camps. And the 11,000 German nationals and Americans of German ancestry, and the nearly 2,000 Italian nationals and Americans of Italian ancestry. As always, links to all of my sources can be found in the description of this video. Getting back to the manufactured outrage some members of Congress have about Elon Musk seeing our personal data, there are over 100,000 unelected people at the IRS who see our data. If you file a 1040 form, those employees have access to your name, address, social security number, marital status, number of children along with their names and social security numbers, and all types of information about your income and where it comes from. If you itemize your deductions, you will have to fill out a Schedule A form and divulge to unelected IRS employees information about your medical and dental expenses, how much interest you paid on your mortgage, and what charities you donate to. And let's not forget unelected Craig Livingston, who was President Clinton's director of the White House's Office of Personnel Security. Mr. Livingston, quote, improperly requested and received from the FBI background reports concerning several hundred individuals, many of whom were White House employees from previous Republican administrations. Craig Livingston and employees of the ATF, Census Bureau, and IRS are a tiny fraction of the unelected people who have access to the personal data of American citizens. According to the highly respected Pew Research Center, as of November 2024, there were 3 million federal employees, including 1.3 million active-duty military personnel and 600,000 people who work for the United States Postal Service. Of those 3 million federal employees, 435 are members of Congress, 100 are senators, one is a vice president, and the other is a president, for a total of 537 elected employees, compared to 2,999,463 unelected employees. I clearly do not agree with the members of Congress complaining about Elon Musk, but I am truly thrilled to see how committed they are to protecting the personal information of Americans from unelected people. In October 2022, I made a video about data brokers who I refer to as privacy parasites. These companies, run by unelected people, traffic the personal information of hundreds of millions of Americans. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of these data broker companies who are collecting and selling our data without our permission. They sell all the data needed for identity theft, such as our names, addresses, and dates of birth. They also sell personal information that is useful for scammers and online spear phishing attacks, such as our previous home addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, names of our children, credit scores, and hobbies. So Congresswoman Waters, Congressman Raskin, Senator Warren, and Senator Schumer, and all the other elected officials who are outraged about unelected people having access to the private data of American citizens, I am looking forward to seeing the legislation you introduce to crack down on the 99.98% of unelected government employees who have access to our data, and the data broker companies that are trafficking our data every day. That's the way I see it, but what do you think? Are you concerned about Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency having visibility to all the payments made by the U.S. Treasury? Personally, I think it's a great thing to have someone from the outside auditing waste, fraud, and abuse of our tax dollars. I'm certainly looking forward to reading your comments.